This is the regular meeting of the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, Wednesday, November 20th, 2 p.m. Stephanie, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Cruiser.
I'm here.
Comptroller Green.
Here.
President Reed.
Here.
All present.
Great, thank you. Items presented for the first time. Number 1, 20.046, request from the Comptroller's Office for approval of contracts and leases for various city departments as listed on Exhibit A. Number 2, 20.047, request from the Comptroller's Office for approval of intra-departmental and interdepartmental transfers from various city departments as listed on Exhibit B. Number 3, 20.048, request from the Comptroller's Office for approval of transfers between projects for capital improvement funds listed on Exhibit C. Number 4, 20.049, request from the Mayor's Office for approval to pay an invoice in the amount of $17,511 to U.S. Conference of Mayors for FY20 annual membership from Fund 1010, Department 190, account 5648000. Number 5, request from the Law Department, City Council for approval to add 1 attorney 3 to their table of organization. Number 6, 20.051, request from the Director of Health for approval to add the following positions to the Ryan White Part A Grants Administration Program. Healthcare Compliance Specialist, 2 FTEs, Administrative Assistant 2, 1 FTE. Number 7, 20.052, request from the Assessor's Office for approval of the city's assessment maintenance plan for January 1, 2020 through 12/31/2021. Number 8, 20.053, request from the Director of Airports for approval of Board Bill 149. This ordinance approves the first amendment to the automated teller machine concession agreement with Bank of America. Number 9, 20.054, request from St. Louis Development Corporation, Director of Commercial Development for approval of Board Bill 155. This ordinance approves an industrial development project plan for Anheuser-Busch LLC's Soulard Brewery and authorizes the issuance of taxable industrial revenue bonds not to exceed $100 million. Number 10, 20.055, request from St. Louis Development Corporation, Director of Commercial Development for approval of Board Bill number 170. This ordinance authorizes the issuance of up to $14,100,000 plus issuance cost principal amount of tax increment financing revenue notes for Pearl Capital Management LLC for transit-oriented demolition, construction at 270 through 276 and 301 to 331 DeBolivar Avenue and 5720 DeGiverville. Number 11, request from the St. Louis Development Corporation, Director of Commercial Development for approval of Board Bill 158. This ordinance authorizes the issuance of up to $11,850,000 plus issuance cost principal amount of tax increment financing revenue notes for 900 North Tucker Building LLC. Number 12, 20.057, request from SLDC, Director of Commercial Development for approval of Board Bill 156. This ordinance approves an industrial development project plan for Square Inc. and authorizes the issuance of taxable industrial revenue bonds not to exceed $50 million. Number 3, 20.058, request from the Comptroller's Office, along with the support of the 4th Ward Alderman Sam Moore, for approval of an assignment agreement transferring interest in the Homer G. Phillips Dignity House LP to EP Acquisitions LLC, who agrees to make necessary upgrades and continue operating the facility as multifamily apartments, particularly for the elderly. That's the extent of the agenda.
Madam Mayor, I move for adoption of items 1 through 12 as printed. It's my understanding that there's a request to take item 13 up separately. So I move for adoption of items 1 through 12 as printed.
Do we have a second? No? I'll second it.
I'd like to take up items 9, 10, 11, and 12 separate.
Okay. So I'll amend my motion.
I'll remove my second,
Yeah.
first of all.
Yeah, I move that we adopt items 1 through 8. Yes, as
I'll
printed.
second that. All in favor of adopting items 1 through 8 as printed?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Would you like
Take
me to
up-
do, would you like me to make a motion for 9 for you?
Actually, I'd like to take them all together.
Or- Okay.
Items 9 through 12, I'd like to take up, I have a question.
Okay. Would you want me to make the motion?
You can make a motion.
I move that we take up items 9 through 12.
Second?
Is there any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to offer for item number 9, item number 10, item number 11, item number 12, that these are issuances of bonds. They would be issuances through various SLDC organizations for economic development and in the city, throughout the city, throughout certain points of the city. Specifically, the Soulard neighborhood, Central West End neighborhood, and these in a couple other neighborhoods in the city, including downtown. Each of these I don't have any details on in my office, and I am unaware if they would be coming through for signature from the comptroller. And if so, I would like to have more details on each and every one in terms of what taxpayers should be expecting as to its cost and how many years, if it's a 20-year cost for these issuance of bonds, if this is, these appear to be TIFs.
Some are.
Correct, but they're
Couple
all
are.
economic development. I have no
Right.
details, I haven't had no discussions from SLDC or the mayor's office on these. And I do not know if they're
Okay,
gonna
the
be
information
coming
is in the packet.
through. You mean like item number 13?
We're talking about 9, 10, 11, and 12, aren't we?
Yeah, but you asked me were they in the packet, and I was just asking you if there was the same as information similar to item 13.
I don't know, I haven't compared the information here. Would you like, Dale, are you, or is Otis here, or Linda here?
Dale,
Yes, although I could have Mark Spikerman address.
Okay,
I mean, in the package should be the board bills and all the attachments to the board bills, which were the materials.
okay. Well, maybe we can just talk about them one at a time then.
That'd be fine.
Item number 9, according to the information in the packet, is approval of a plan for AB to authorize the issuance of $100 million of taxable and IRBs. First 5 years, 75% personal property tax abatement. 5 years, 50% personal property tax abatement. Sales tax exemption. That's the summary here. So I don't know if there's additional questions or information that, I mean, I do happen to know a little bit about this particular project. This is a building that we are actually in competition with a couple of other cities to see whether or not we would get this. It's a reuse of a building on the AB campus, whether or not we would get this new business to locate in that building. And so we're in competition with a couple of other cities for this. And so that was the reason that this was put forth. The,
And so there was a presentation made, Mayor, to you.
no, I looked at the, well, actually, yes, I had a presentation made to me, this has been a couple of months ago. And I just looked at the board bill here, and then Otis dropped this off for me this morning or sometime, it was on my desk, which
I don't know
has,
how they missed the comptroller's office unless my signature's not needed, then I would understand. Is that the case? Could someone tell me?
yeah. Yeah, the presentation was at the Board of Aldermen today.
No, I mean the signature of the documents as they would, be finalized. These are some things that don't have to come through the comptroller's office? Is that why my office
I don't
is
know the
missed?
answer to that.
Is still here?
Well, Mark, I think would.
Yeah, Madam Comptroller, my name is Mark Spiderman. Your signature would be needed on the bond documents, and the board bill itself actually anticipates that the forms of the bond documents will be brought back before the Board of Estimate and Apportionment for your approval one more time before those signatures are obtained.
Does somebody think they would have time to give a presentation to the comptroller? Is that
I cannot
something
speak
that's
for the company, but.
into?
Well, I'm sure we'd be
Well,
happy to.
sure,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah. Of course, yeah. So you want to hold up this approval of this board bill?
I just don't know a whole lot about it. I wish I had been included as we were considering this important development.
Okay.
And as for item 10, it's pretty much the same. I simply asked if there was a need for my signature here.
Well, that is a TIF item. There are 2 TIF items. And you might recall that when we have a TIF project, the first thing we do is have an agenda prep meeting. And I believe the agenda prep meeting included Kelly. That would have been like 3 or 4 months ago when the initial presentation was made for the 2 TIF projects. And so though you personally perhaps were not available for that, your staff was.
And I would just point out, I think you mentioned that this was in the Central West End. This is actually in Skinker to Bolivar.
That's still the Central West End. I mean, from because I live on I did live on the Giverville, which is one of the streets, so I know this particular block intimately. Presidents
Okay.
of the board had.
Yeah, I might also add that
Yeah.
this morning we had the hearing on the 2 TIF bills, and Tom Ray was there
Mhm.
and indicated that the comptroller was okay with those 2 TIF bills.
I just didn't have a presentation of this particular TIF bill and then the next one on the next page. And that happens to be item 11. And this is $11 million. And this is also a TIF. Now, this is downtown.
This is the old Post Dispatch building. Square is trying to renovate.
And they just moved out, the Post Dispatch moved out.
They did. Square bought this building, well, an entity, I don't remember the name of the entity, bought the building, but Square is expected to be the tenant in the building.
Mhm.
So what would you like to do? Would you like to hold these 4 items?
Well, I mean, I just would
That's
like a
fine,
presentation.
whatever you want to do.
Is
You want to hold them
there-
up?
Is there someone from SLDC that could speak to whether or not there's time for presentation?
There's
Well, I
always
mean,
time.
Yeah, I mean, we can work it out if you want, I mean, to be a new, if you want to have a special presentation on each of these, that we'd be happy to be in doing that.
Okay, very good.
Okay, so I'm gonna,
Hold on for a second. We need to make sure that there's some timing attached to that so that that presentation can happen in the next 30 days so that we can still take these up. I need something to be able to talk to the sponsors of each one of these pieces of legislation about so that they have an expectation when these things can come off the informal calendar. Otherwise, they sit there indefinitely. So I would rather it not be, totally,
I'm available.
open-ended.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say.
They'll hold a
Okay,
second.
sorry.
And also, I think we should, for you guys moving forward, so that we don't ever run into this problem again, even though you've advised the comptroller's staff, right? You need to get some confirmation from the comptroller's staff that the comptroller's staff has indeed shared all the appropriate information with the comptroller. Because it seems like that, the comptroller staff, they were part of the meetings and part of the discussions, but somehow that information never landed with the comptroller.
Sure.
So, moving forward, as part of these packets, if we can also have within these packets, the information about who was included in it, right? And, and some confirmation that indeed, there was a request from SLDC that the comptroller staff, that you guys asked the comptroller staff to assure that she was notified and brought up to speed on these things prior to ENA.
Okay, that's fine.
And then we also need these presentations to happen within a compact time frame so that we can indeed take these up by the next ENA meeting.
Yeah, well, no. it
Well, this
would
is
be-
probably gonna put this off till after the first of the year, I would guess,
Well,
right?
unless we could
I think we
have
need
the
to have
presentation.
some of these we may have to have a special
I
ENA.
mean,
Yeah,
these
you
are-
might, to try and get them out of the Board of Aldermen by the time they take their Christmas break. I don't know if
There's
it's
only,
possible.
I wanna say there's two more meetings of the Board of, after this Friday, of the Board of Aldermen before they go down for break, so.
Right.
Yeah, and I
So,
can
I mean,
add-
I think what we have to say here is that, it's not enough to have the comptroller's representatives at these meetings, even though they are speaking for you.
Well, I think that we, and thank you, Mr. President and Madam Mayor for speaking for me, but, we most of the time have each of the members of ENA's representatives at most of the meetings, especially the one right before ENA, to discuss the items that are going on ENA with the packet information and all of that. So it's not like that the comptroller's representatives would be totally prepared to give a good, respectable response in terms of what I have a knowledge of similarly for yourself, as we look at all the items on the agenda. So there's certain items I understand is gonna come off the agenda for lack of information. I just think that, we're moving in the right direction when we talk about what kind of information is needed by each member of ENA to help move these things forward, because that's what we want to do. We want to move these things forward, but I did want to bring up that I didn't have any kind of presentation for this, and so I would like to have that, and Dallas said that he would be able
Sure,
to do
we
that.
can-
Sure. And that is a new procedure then that we're gonna put in place for this
Right.
project and all projects, is that correct? I mean, we've been doing it this other way for many, many years, but that's fine, we can do it a
We
different
should-
way.
We should be accommodating each member of ENA
That's fine.
with this new procedure.
Okay, so I'm gonna withdraw my second.
But,
I mean,
and we do not have enough information in front of us to officially adopt a new procedure. We have no idea what that would do, what that would mean down the line. I know I rely on this guy here to my right for, all the stuff he's involved in these meetings. I am, when I want to be also or make myself available. So I have not had a formal presentation on any
I haven't either.
these
One of them I
items.
have, the others I haven't.
But he
Okay,
has to do his
so
job, and my staff has to do
when
theirs.
should we have a special ENA meeting to take these items up?
I
That would
think
be
we-
long enough for you to have your presentation and get comfortable so that you can either vote yes or no.
Hey Dale, how soon can you, and then?
Well, I think it's as soon as the comptroller is available, because we could do it later this week or next week. I
Well,
don't
we
know
have
if you're in town
4.
then, but,
We have 4. You want to try to get a couple of them in this week and a couple next week?
We're just doing all.
4
of them.
items?
well, we could do them all together.
Okay, that's fine.
I would think it'd be easier on your schedule, I would think, just to
So-
schedule a
I'll take a
time.
look at my schedule. I know I'm available, Thursday and Friday, left in this week, and next week is flexible.
Okay, well, we'll
So-
definitely schedule
Okay.
something.
Great.
So we'll
So
look at
could we
having
have a special ENA meeting either Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday next week?
Absolutely, I'll make it work, yeah, yes.
You wanna say next Wednesday,
Next Wednesday.
Does everybody want
2 o'clock?
That's the day
Is
before
that-
Thanksgiving.
Oh, no, that's not good, is it?
It's fine with me. It works just fine. Let's do it. Let's do it. I don't want to hold this up and
Thursday,
eat
next
up
Wednesday,
the 27th. Perfect.
27th.
Perfect. What time you want to do it?
You guys pick, I'll
Does it
cancel.
work?
I'll
2
clear my
o'clock works for
schedule.
me.
You pick, I'll be there.
It doesn't matter. I can clear my schedule, so,
Yeah,
2 o'clock?
2 o'clock is fine.
2 o'clock Wednesday, the 27th, we'll have a special meeting. Do we need a vote on that? Special meeting of E&A? We all just agreed, but I make a
You make a
motion that we have a special meeting of E&A on November 27th at 2 p.m.
Second.
to take up the 4 items which we are deferring, I think would be the
Yes.
appropriate terminology here.
That's items 9, 10,
11 and 12.
As it appears on this current agenda. As it appears on the agenda from November 20th, 2019.
10 things.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so if the E&A secretary would please post it and do all the normal things that you would do for a meeting.
Well, that being the case, you want to, are you guys still looking to take up item 13 next week, or are you going to discuss it today?
I'd like to discuss it today.
Okay,
It's a request from the Comptroller's Office for,
is there a motion to take that up?
I moved for approval for item number 13.
I would accept the motion for discussion purposes, not having all the
So
information.
you second it for discussion? Is that what?
For discussion purposes only.
And so, as it reads, the item is a transfer of ownership or assignment. And it transfers the interest in the Herman G. Phillips Dignity House LP lease to EP Acquisitions LLC. And I understand there were questions.
We're transferring the interest in the lease, I guess, well, just tell us about it. What we have here doesn't have any, I mean, I guess there's a price for that, the existing leaseholder must have be getting from the new leaseholder for the transfer of the lease.
Well, my office has been working with the Alderman, Alderman Sam Moore, I guess for a better part of a year now. I remember having discussions about this past spring. And
With Alderman Moore?
with Alderman Moore, asking if I could be supportive, and with my staff. Prior to my current staff, I believe we had previous staff, Gary Bagley, working on this, and now we have new staff working on it. And I understand that there was a talk with both the president's office as well as the mayor's office, but now we have questions. And so I first want to get an idea of what you guys need to know about it.
Does the city get a lease payment from this? I don't see that in the information, but it may be. How much do we get each year? We own the property, correct?
We're leasing it. It's either a 99-year lease or a 50-year lease.
And do we get a payment for that?
Kelly, you want to talk about it?
Yes, the city currently owns the property. It's under a 99-year lease. It's been about 20 years so far in the lease. The lease payment for the city is a $50,000 payment each year for the current lease. In the current lease, it's a kind of a 20-year moratorium on the lease payment. So once that expires, then the city will start receiving the lease payments.
So we will get 50,000 after the 20 years runs?
Yes.
And then you said the 20 years is about up?
Yes,
Okay.
close to being up, yeah.
And is it 50,000 per year forever?
Well,
For the whole 90, the other
70. So
70 years,
yes,
80
ma'am.
years, I guess, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I jump in here?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm really familiar with the project and have been working with Alderman Moore because of the current lease operator is just horrendous. I mean, I've been over there working with the residents because of bed bugs, all sorts of major issues. And the current operator just has not addressed those issues. And it's my understanding that it would be a $5 million payment made to the current operator to transfer the lease to the new operator.
Correct.
Is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct? So, and essentially that $5 million just makes up, essentially the cost and the differences of the rents. I mean, where is it? How are you quantifying that $5 million? What of value is being transferred?
I could turn over
A cheap
to
lease.
potential lessors and they can answer that question.
All right.
And would you guys mind introducing yourselves as you address the president of the board?
Sure, thank you. My name is Laura Burns. I'm the CEO of the Eagle Point Companies. We're the company proposing to acquire the lease interest in Homer G. Phillips. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. We agreed that it's time for a change at this property. We're an affordable housing developer that's worked in St. Louis over the last 14 years. Our first transaction in St. Louis was in 2002 and 2003. We are bringing new financing to the transaction so that there will be new dollars to spend on elevators and HVAC systems, and we're proposing to spend at least $500,000, and that number could be closer to $600,000. It does involve a payment to the current leaseholder. It's really a recognition of their ownership over 16 years of taking risk and signing guarantees and owning and holding a mortgage. My understanding is the lease specifically dictates that any sale of the leasehold interest does go to the current leaseholder. That's the way that the current documents are structured with the city. So the payment the purchase and sale agreement has been adjusted down slightly. One of the other items that we intend to improve is that the accessory building has a history of having a lot of water intrusion, and our plan is to correct that once and for all. So we recently went back to Dominium to explain that, and we've adjusted the purchase price down to $4,775,000. But even though the city owns the property, their lease is a 99-year lease, which still has many years left to go. So it's in some ways similar to a transaction where we're really paying for the right to own and operate this property. And we're very committed to making a number of changes. We've been working with Alderman Moore for many, many months to work through any of his concerns, and I know he's enthusiastic about a change at the leaseholder interest level and the property management level. And I'm happy to go into more details about improvements we plan to make.
I would like to hear, and as far as what some of your concerns too, we put in the documents some points that help cause some of the corrections that you mentioned to happen. So could you go through those things? You had mentioned some things, and I wanted you to be specific to what's in the new terms of safety, upkeep, those things that the residents of the building, in terms of maintenance, all of that. Those things are not in the current contract, but they will be in yours. And there's some other things too.
Yes, they've been very committed to making up the shortfalls that the current leasehold has, as well as with making those improvements as far as keeping the maintenance up. They also have committed to certify each year the rent they're charging is not excessive to their low-income residents, and that the city certify that to the city to protect the current tenants in the building.
Yeah, because some of the thank you. Some of the stuff that you mentioned, the elevators, they've been off and on a problem for years. The tenants have complained that they haven't been able to get hot water, so that boiler system stuff, that's going to have to require some major upgrade. Security at the front door is a problem because where they have the guards are over there on the side, so people can just randomly walk in. And they walk over the elevator, take the elevator up to the second floor, and they have now they have clear access to the entire building. So there are a lot of issues, including trip hazards outside, the front and back security gates work periodically off and on. So there are a lot of things to be upgraded in the building. You know, I would say that the current operator has certainly should have come out ahead already based on collecting rents in all these apartments for all those years that they collected rent from them without putting much back into the building, right? So now it appears that they will get an additional $5 million windfall, right? And I understand from your perspective, it's based on you know, the structure of the lease agreements and all those things. But just like there were additional maintenance items that came up that allowed you to adjust the original amount to $4.7 million, right? I would like to assure that some of these other items that we know are issues that maybe you don't have covered, right? That may adjust that number down some. I think certainly the residents would certainly appreciate it. One time we went and pushed them to address the issues of bed bugs in the building. And then we got calls the next month from all the residents and said, hey, they came by and said they're gonna, you know, jack up our rent because we made calls on them. So, you know, certainly for me, you know, I don't have a big appetite for seeing a big windfall for an organization that has operated like that in our city. And I know from working with Sam Moore would not want to see a big windfall from them, right? And I'm sure that, and I have not had a chance to talk to Sam today about this, but I'm sure Sam would like to see as much money as possible stay in that property and stay in his ward so that at the end of the day, you guys aren't just scraping by again and relying on the rents. Now is the time to challenge it and get it to a better place. And then I also want to leave with this. The current tenant, the current leasehold, they want to get out of it because we've been all over them. They don't want another call from my office. They don't want another call from Sam. They don't want the reporters down there again. So you have a motivated seller. They want somebody to come bail them out, and they would love to turn this thing over to you. So I think the thing we need to look at is $4.7 million fair? And also, is there a way to assure more funds stay within the building? I'm sorry.
No, I interrupted you. You were taking a breath.
Yes, thank you.
I'm sorry.
Sorry about it.
So if I could just say, you know, part of the reason that this property is worth $5 million, you're willing to pay $5 million to this bad operator is because we have a lease that was negotiated 20 years ago for a building that is for almost nothing, for $50,000 a year, and they haven't even paid us any rent up till now. So they've had the building for free for 20 years, whatever the exact length of time has been. Now they're going to, whoever, either them or the new operator, will begin paying $50,000, and in another 50, 75 years, that $50,000 is going to look like nothing. And it's not much today either. So we're rewarding a bad operator to the tune of $5 million, so that the new operator can take advantage of a lease that has extremely advantageous terms.
Can I add one thing?
And we're happy to have you interested, by the way.
I don't know the exact number of how much of that is going to pay off their mortgage, but I believe it is most of it, and we could get that information for you. But the $4,775,000 is payment for the entire transaction, and they have a mortgage. So they borrowed money 16 years ago to do some of the improvements, and that has been paid down some, but I believe a significant amount of that is going to their lender.
And I wanted to add comments to what you both stated. I do know that this current, you guys with Eagle Point, you guys wanted to close, and they had mentioned a closing of, in the next 2 months. Is that?
We're trying to close in December.
Okay, so it's not.
For the end of the year.
For the end of the year. But I think the points are well taken with regard to the maintenance and the upkeep or the lack thereof. I do know that when you're talking about closings, you also have escrows that can be established. And so in lieu of what we, I guess, don't know, that possibly could be needed by you guys to do the maintenance that's needed. You were able to pull out an amount for water intrusion, but do we know that the bed bug issue has been taken care of, or the hot water issue, is that solid? And then the security issue, is there something? And then of course there's the elevator issues. So then if we could maybe tighten those up, maybe with the help of some of your engineers that would go back, take a second look, put an amount out there that could possibly go into escrow and not to be released to the previous lease owners until you have those resolved. And if they don't get resolved, then you would have the dollars to resolve them. And there could be some help. I don't know, does this have to go back to the Board of Aldermen at all?
No, it doesn't.
Does not have to go back, okay.
So I think we've shared with Alderman Moore the details of what improvements we plan to make, and we've given him specifics, and we have some materials we could pass out here if it would be helpful, if you could
That
grab
would be
them.
helpful.
So we've put together a plan of $500,000. In addition to that, since we've put together this plan, we've met with the elevator company, and we've got some numbers together to immediately upgrade 2 of the elevators. The problem is the elevator system is no longer being produced, so we have to upgrade the guts, if you will, of the actual elevator units. So the majority of what we're spending on, the money on, is rooftop units, HVAC units, because we agree there's been significant problems with the hot water. The bed bugs issue, the security issue, we've spoken with Alderman Moore, we agree 100%. The security guard needs to come out in front. We like to manage our properties and really have a good engagement with our residents. We like to have a much tighter connection with who's coming and going. Bed bugs are a problem in many locations, but the way to stay ahead of it is to really stay ahead of it and have regular inspections. And bed bugs travel because people get mattresses out of dumpsters and things of that nature. And so a lot of it's education. We've worked in a lot of other cities where it's been a problem, and we've been able to get it under control. Again, I don't know the specifics to the company that's transferring their interest to us. My suspicion, because we've already cut their price by quite a bit, that they don't have a lot of room between what they have to pay off for the mortgage. Our lender, our new lender, is Freddie Mac, and they're very, very careful and reviewing every single number that's going into these transactions, and they're providing us a loan for 35 years, so they're really looking at every single number, and they're requiring funds set aside from our new loan to be put into this exact thing. There will be careful draws before we can draw that money out. We'll have to prove that we fixed the elevators and we put in 2 20-ton rooftop units and 6 rooftop exhaust systems and all CO2 detectors and water cooling tower repairs. So all of those are detailed, and we're happy to provide more of that to Kelly to make sure that it's detailed in, should you consider this for approval, that it's detailed in that approval.
Wasn't there a building division certification added to the current
Yes,
lease?
the building division will come out and do an inspection.
Which was
before
not in the
closing
previous.
Of the loan and things like that.
Laura, are you a local company?
My company's based in Portland, Maine, but we're a national real estate affordable housing developer. We have, Missouri is our largest state. We manage over 2,000 apartments in Missouri. Riverbend Apartments is the very second deal I ever worked on. When we started our company in 1995, we acquired Riverbend in 2003. We own Winston Churchill Apartments out in Ward 26. We acquired that in 2007, and I think we made a really lasting change to that community. Winston Churchill had lots of history to it and challenges. We worked with Alderman Williams
Cabinet courts.
for a long time, and we met with him recently to ask him to share his experience with Alderman Moore, and he willingly did so. We're very committed to this region. Our executive vice president of our management company lives in Kansas City. We have a district manager that's from the St. Louis area. She lives out near Ferguson. She has worked with us since 2010. She recently left our company and then came back when she heard we were going to buy Homer G. Phillips. So she rejoined our company, and is very, very committed to this community.
Madam Mayor and Madam Comptroller, given the, some of the missing information that I feel we have here today, and how important it is to the residents that live there, that have lived in just, these substandard conditions for all the years they've lived there. Why don't we take a shot at adopting this or taking this up at our next ENA meeting next week? That at least
On
gives us a
Wednesday.
week to start to
Yeah.
Is that a
dig into
motion?
some of this. Yes.
I second
And the motion is to defer this until next time? Is
To
that the
at
motion?
least the next week. Hopefully we can get all this information by then.
I would just say that even though the current operator may have a mortgage on this, they have taken their money out of this property by taking the rents and not doing the kinds of things, it sounds like, that should have been done by a responsible owner. So part of that's conjecture, but, so it's,
Well, that's reality.
pardon?
That's reality.
Yeah. Okay, so
I've been dealing with it.
There's a motion, there's a second, all in favor of deferring this until, deferring this item?
it.
Aye.
So Wednesday, the 27th of November, this next Wednesday?
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All in favor of adjourning? Aye. I think that's non-debatable.
I